Should we stand and start the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for both of you coming out on a crappy night.
It's one of my assignments.
I appreciate that. So we'll start with announcements. First is the Peter Oley Turkey Trot. It is Sunday, November 24th. I think is it at 10 a.m. or 10:30?
No, it's at like 12.
It's in the afternoon.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to
The
it.
registration is somewhere around 11.
Okay.
Yeah, it's after the farmer's market, if I recall, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think
That
that's-
makes sense.
There's some coordination going on there, yeah.
The O'Hara Foundation Senior Citizen Thanksgiving Luncheon is on Tuesday, November 26th at 11:30 a.m. at the Senior Center. Thanksgiving Day dinner delivery is on Thanksgiving, which is Thursday, November 28th. The holiday tree lighting and holiday happening are on Saturday, December 7th, with activities throughout the day. Checks over $25,000. We have Tom Bucci, the Water Department and DPW repairs from either the Water Fund or the General Fund that totaled $48,653.70. We had another one that was through Lion v. Scape, I think is how they say it.
Yes.
Which is part of the Hudson View Park culvert replacement, which have a capital budget for $326,866.12.
All right, let me just clarify. The Turkey Trot registration starts at 11:45 a.m. in Dow's Lane. The race starts at 1:30.
I think you can pre-register, you don't have to
Yes.
register that day, so. Yeah, we'll get into the details later, I guess.
So is it going to have traffic, is that on Broadway again, or is it?
Traffic will be
There's
stopped on Broadway.
one lane usually, right?
Yeah.
One of the
Stop
southbound.
delays. Right, expect traffic delays from 1:30 to 3.
But usually it's just
Just
one.
the one southbound, the westernmost southbound lane is closed from Dow's Lane through Sunnyside.
Right.
And also Main Street is,
And Main Street has,
Yeah,
the
Main Street's
crossing,
restricted.
the
Right.
main crossing.
They cross to stop the
There's
traffic.
intermittent stopping
Yeah,
of traffic
intermittent, yes, I should
for
remember
the,
this.
for the runners. Anyone else have announcements? Otherwise, I will go right to correspondence. First is from Monica Richmond. Dear Mr. Shopler, for all the reasons that have been voiced by many residents, I respectfully request that Matheson Park stay for residents only. We have scenic Hudson Park, the Irvington Woods, and the Aqueduct to share with non-residents, as well as our great Main Street. I strongly encourage the village to continue Matheson Park as residents only. Many thanks. Sincerely, Monica Richmond, who lives in River House. Next, we have a lengthy letter that Connie insists I read the entire thing.
Backwards.
It's all
Starting
been
from the
covered.
last word.
We actually covered this letter. It's from Cuddy and Fetter, who are the owners, the current owners of the Maxine property, but we did discuss it at the last work session. Actually, they discussed it at the last work session. The last correspondence is from former Irvington trustee Terry Masterson. Dear Mayor and Village Trustees, a walk through the downtown on Saturday elicited a few observations about the condition of our public buildings. We can all agree that all of the village buildings on Main and South Astor look unchanged since the 1960s. Village capital plan projects improvements for the firehouse, $5 million in 2021. DPW garage, $5 million in 2022. Some questions below. Is there any study or plan for these two near-term construction projects? Is there any study to determine the floor space, operational space needs for these departments? Are there any studies completed or planned for the police department which looks from the curbside to be at capacity? Are there any consideration of merging IPD, IFD, and IVAC into one facility? The existing firehouse and IVAC are currently located at Main and South Paris. In essence, creating a centralized public safety center which could entail the market acquisition of the properties between IFD. Bills prohibit any major capital spending on facility upgrades, improvements, or property acquisition. With any studies to identify more affordable options for these public safety functions can operate with more floor space than we see now. Is there any interest in studying the decking of the DPW garage, which allows shelter all ground level DPW vehicles and create a second mezzanine level for broad range of options such as parking, vehicle equipment storage, or administrative office space? Perhaps MTA might share in the construction financing of this new deck. If there's no funding capacity for questions 6 and 7, is there any consideration of acquiring any adjacent property near Village Hall to house excess vehicles and offer added office space? Though it is not an optimal path to pursue, it is offered as a fallback option if more expensive options are ruled out. One nearby property could be suggested verbally, if not in this memo. Thanks for any consideration of this note. I've tried to point out to offer options to the questions and offer choice for various price points. Terry, I think the short answer is we're looking at all of those things, probably with the exception of decking the DPW garage, because I think we kind of thought that we might want to move it from that particular location. But things are in motion. It's just slow, unfortunately.
But we do have a study.
Firehouse we do, yeah. It was never finalized, but there's a lot of preliminary work that was done.
Yeah, it was almost finalized.
Yes.
We just didn't adopt it or anything. So
Yes.
we were blown away by the costs
Correct.
And the constraints.
and the constraints. Public comment? Came out in the rain and nothing? Just yell at us or something. If not, I will move the consent agenda. If anybody has any questions or comments on the consent agenda. Otherwise, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. So I can get a second. All in favor? Aye. Next is approval of the grant application for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Did you want to give a little history on this one, Larry?
Yeah, so this is a grant, as you said, through the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. It is for their urban forestry grant program. And it's specifically in this case for a study of the Irvington Woods. That's the larger plan. That does not mean that they're examining every single tree nor inventorying every single tree, in case you're wondering. But it is to take representative samples in various areas throughout the woods to determine the health, and then to come up with recommendations for improving the health. It's a non-matching grant program, we feel like we have a pretty strong application at this point. But assuming this study were to get done, then this becomes, kind of the master plan for dealing with, making improvements to the health of the woods, and so it's a good roadmap for future potential funding and projects. So.
Great.
What sort of,
Date?
Yeah, it's early December, so we really we need to get this authorization done.
so what sort of expertise is recommended for this sort of wood study? I assume most of this is going to be going toward a consulting contract.
Yes, yeah. In fact, it's all being done by a professional, and I suspect that that'll be done on a competitive basis in some way. So I don't have the answers as to what the exact qualifications are, but should we get the grant, of course, we'll go through all those next steps.
And you're probably well aware, but just so people are aware that Hastings recently, meaning in the last year, went through a process of trying to look at the Hillsdale Woods. Similar issues, they have a wide range of issues, including, the impact of invasives, other kinds of use issues that were leading to the degradation of the woodlands. And, their observation was they wanted to do something because they were being told if they didn't do something, since there was no understory regeneration, in 30 or 40 years, there would be no woods, or whatever the lifetime of the species of trees as they start to die out. So the same thing is probably true of Irvington Woods in the fact that there's no real understory regeneration at this moment.
Yeah, we had a chance to review the report that was generated for Hastings, so we have an idea of what we could look forward to should we get this grant. So.
Including fencing in some
Well,
areas.
yeah, that's probably not a likely scenario here, but in limited cases there may be.
Yeah.
So it just
So that's good, Ray. You did get that copy, and you've been in touch with them, so you're...
Yeah.
That's good.
Our grant writer is very familiar with the
Yeah.
grant that was done there.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Good.
Whereas the Village of Irvington wishes to address the deteriorated condition of the forest in the Irvington Woods, and whereas the Urban and Community Forestry Grant Program through the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation is a funding source appropriate to the development of forest management plan based on a tree inventory, and whereas no financial match to this grant is required, and now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby does approve and endorse the application for 2019 Urban and Community Forest Grant not to exceed $50,000 for the Irvington Woods Community Forest Management Project, and further resolved that upon approval of the grant application, the village administrator is hereby authorized to execute a grant agreement with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. I'll make a motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have, obviously, we announced that we had our long-term chair, Bruce Clark. I'm trying to put blank on his last name, I saw him.
27 years?
Yeah, it was a long
I
time.
didn't realize
He wasn't chair the whole time,
but he was on the,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know, it was a great service. You think I would remember his last
Yeah,
name?
right,
but-
not chair, right. On the board, yeah.
But, so he endorsed Sarah Gardner, as, you know, I've known her well, we appointed her, and we thought she'd be great, and she turned out to be great, so, it's, sad to see Bruce go, but it's, nice to have a capable chair to step in, so. Resolved to appoint Sarah Gardner as the chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term effective November 27, 2019, expire December of 2022. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, there are appointments to the planning board. I thank the board. I think it was just Janice and Mark who ended up meeting with several candidates.
Yep.
You know, we were lucky to have several candidates, several qualified candidates. We were able to pick two. You know, and, you know, for the folks that weren't selected, you never know what happens. We always need people for other boards, and we appreciate you raising your hand and coming through the process. Stay tuned. But without further ado, resolve to appoint Ken Thurman as the first alternate. Kevin Thurman. What did I say?
Ken.
Kevin Thurman as the first alternative to the first alternate to the planning board for a term to expire December 2020. Don't worry, you'll be reapproved next year, most likely. Further resolve to appoint Dan McGilliot as the second alternate to the planning board for a term to expire December of 2021. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
And Dan is here, by the way.
Oh.
Just wanted to- I know, well, you met with a few of the board members here, so,
All right, Dan, welcome.
thanks, Dan.
Next is appointment to members of the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. We got a revised list of some extra members. I think several of them are
Yeah.
students.
Yeah, so Judy Fremer's been working very hard at getting additional members for the task force, so we got it started with a few added, so there's a revised resolution there. I made just a notation, not necessarily for the minutes, but just so you're aware of kind of, we're trying to get a bit of a cross-section in terms of the membership on the committee, or on the task force. So it gives you an idea. We have a few students here. We've got the representative from business. There's still a couple of other candidates we're working on. We think probably, you know, upwards of 12 or so is where we want to end up. So we can spread around the work. But that's where we are right now.
Start.
Yeah.
9 out of 12 is a good way to start.
Yep.
And it's also really nice, I think, to see students. I mean, they actually reached out to us too, so that's
Mhm,
also,
Yep.
thought that was great. Resolved to appoint the following volunteer members to the Climate Smart Communities Task Force with the term to expire in December of 2020. Jasna Sorrell, Nikki Coddington, Randall Dodge, Katie Kroll, Tom Thacker, Tommy Flanagan, Aaliyah Cooper-Carr, Aurelia Toman. The motion, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Acceptance of the...
Oh, I'm sorry, before you move on.
Sure.
Is there any interest in appointing a trustee
Oh.
liaison to that task force?
I think we should. If anybody wants to raise their hand, or if you don't tonight, you can think about it.
You're welcome. But you can think, if you want to think about it, but I just think
Yeah,
there may
if somebody
be,
wants to.
if there's some connection, it might be helpful.
Otherwise, we'll...
It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be there every meeting, but I think, you know, just,
I mean, I'll do it if you,
You'll do
since
it?
it's
Nobody else.
still related to, I'm feeling a little bit meeting out, but I'll be able to go to some of them at least.
The kickoff meeting, maybe,
Yeah.
at least they have someone that they could feel they could reach out to. Not that Nikki's too shy about reaching out to us, but
No, and
it's nice to have.
and
an
Judy's
official
already
contact.
been emailing me, so.
Yeah, great. So we'll appoint Mark
Okay,
as well.
good, thank you.
Acceptance of the Justice Court report for 20. So I guess this is our auditors did a separate audit of the Justice Court.
Cash receipts, correct. The cash receipts of the bank equaled what the fines and reporting and amount that was remitted to the village. And then in turn, the village remits a portion to the state control.
So one of the requirements of, I don't know what law it is, but of New York State is that the Board of Trustees formally accepts the Justice Court report. So that's what you're doing here.
Do we do this every year?
Yes.
Is there anything that we should note from the numbers?
No, the numbers are fine. I think the mayor and I were talking earlier that there was a recommendation in an internal control report, which was not part of this, but it's done separately, that recommended that the village consider canceling or otherwise disposing of and uncollected tickets. And so you'll be hearing more about that. It's nothing, there's no systemic problem. Actually, things have been very good in the last 5 years. But
Right.
prior to that was not good. And, they're still on the books and the auditors are like, look, I mean, there's really no possibility of collecting these, very little.
It
So,
doesn't change our bottom line.
No,
It's just
no.
not collected.
right, yeah, they're not,
It carries forward.
It keeps carrying forward
Yeah.
as an amount.
because everything's done on a cash basis, so there's no accrual of those items. There's no financial impact, but, so you'll be hearing more about it, but that's the only item of note.
And I would have
Gotten tickets 10 years
illegally
ago.
parked my car quite a bit more than I did.
But the only question I had was actually about, I assume it was cash basis as opposed to accrual because there's a deficiency of cash receipts over cash disbursements. Is that just a timing issue with, say, bail monies or something?
Right, because they remit all the cash that's collected to the village. Pass-through account?
Yeah, so there are timing issues sometimes.
And it's not big numbers, I mean, it's.
Right. Yep.
Any other questions? Otherwise, resolve to accept the annual Justice Court report issued by PKF O'Connor Davies LLP for the 2018-19 fiscal year. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Trustee liaison reports. Mark?
Yes, okay, so, well, we talked about the new bailiwick. I'm looking forward to seeing attending the first meeting of the climate working group and the climate smart communities task force. In terms of any specific things, there's stuff, we've talked about some stuff in terms of planning board process that Larry and I've been working together with this Larry and Ed, and so I just want to mention that as it's preliminary stuff we want to do before we go forward. And I had a long talk with Ed last week in terms of where he's at. I think I might have mentioned this before with the electronification, shall we say, the electronic submissions of
Digitalization.
yes, for the planning board and for the ARB. That's looking very good, and it's definitely something that we're going to want at some point very soon after it becomes, or just as it's coming live. Larry will want to be sure to get at least the boards of the committees up to speed with what the change in process is. And it's probably, I said the boards, the chairs, because it's probably easier to get two people together than,
Yeah, we'll coordinate all the rollout.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Looking
Tree
forward to it.
Commission meets tomorrow to a 6:30 meeting, library, local history room. Again, if anyone's interested in trees and helping to maintain the village canopy, urban forest, please feel free to drop in and see the process. And or send an email to myself or to Larry in terms of your interest in such. It meets 2 times a month, and that's it.
Okay.
Recreation Parks Advisory Committee will hold their regular monthly meeting November 20th, at 7 p.m. in the Senior Center. Irvington Woods Committee will hold theirs Thursday, the 21st, 7 p.m. in the O'Hara Nature Center. The IS Executive Board meets next tomorrow, November 19th, 8 a.m. in the Senior Center. There's night registration at the Rec Department on November 20th until 7. That's a great night to pre-register for the turkey trot. Registration is going on for 4th and 5th grade night open gym. Participants must be pre-registered to participate. The Beautification Committee is looking for help in preparing the village for the holiday season. Begins on Monday, December 2nd, 1 p.m. in the Rec Department, and work will continue all week long. The committee is looking for volunteers to assist them throughout the week. If you're interested, please contact the Rec Department and they'll put you in touch with the committee. If you'd like to help with the Thanksgiving dinner home delivery program held on Thanksgiving Day, contact Joe or Laura at the Rec. And also, if you know anyone in the area who would benefit from a delivery on Thanksgiving Day, please let us know.
Great.
The theater, I was thinking, Brian, were you involved with the theater film?
Greg's Hiding in Daylight, and then we had the Labrador Scare.
This was
Friday night.
Friday, yeah.
Which was part of their diversity series. It was really interesting. The Labrador Scare was about like the 1950s and 60s when, during the Red Scare, they basically systematically got rid of homosexuals in the federal government, and it was rather easy because most people were still in the closet. So they basically said, "We're going to tell everyone you're homosexual except if you resign." So over 10,000 people left the federal government, which I didn't know anything about. So it was a really interesting documentary, and then the director was there to do a talk back at the end. So it was an interesting, thought-provoking night of theater for sure.
Glad you were there. That was great. And then Greg's had his.
Greg Short played before it.
All right, that's our
He's the
theater director, Greg
probably
Allen.
the last time that he sees it on the big screens.
That's great. There, as I say, at most meetings, you know, if you keep in touch with what the theater is doing, there's almost always something, you know, a variety of things that are right here. It's a well-respected venue for different kinds of programs. I think many of you know that one of the groups that the village belongs to is called Historic Hudson River Towns. I'm, for, I don't know, the last 2 years or so, I'm on their board, so I go to all their meetings, and Irvington always gets high marks for cooperating, getting things done, doing things the right way, and the project that you've heard about, Travel Stories, which will be this phone app that will include Irvington. They thought it would be ready now. It's now going to be launched in the spring, but Irvington will also be on the bridge landing areas, featured as one of the gateway communities. So there will be a way for people to know about the businesses here and the various special things that we have, historic and otherwise. So just to know that in my role of downtown business, that's one of the things I think has been most fruitful. I have a message from the Water Department, and every time we read one of these, you can't imagine how much work they do. But there was investigation of a storm water line leak using a camera system. They used a camera system to assess the condition of the pipes on South Broadway between Langdon and Hudson Road East. They used a camera system on another one between Heritage Hill and Main Street. Jetting catch basin pipes on Riverview Road and Fargo Lane, turned off the water to the senior garden. The cleared access road to the old Croton Aqueduct connector off the Sawmill Parkway, the old aqueduct connection. Cleared the access road. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
The old aqueduct connections. Okay.
There's a pump station off the side
Oh,
of the
that.
Sawmill Parkway that connects, it actually connects to the new Croton Aqueduct, which we're no longer using.
Right, just didn't sound right.
So we're in the process of
Right.
decommissioning that.
I don't have to clear it anymore then.
Okay. Contractor has finished
tuned.
installing the culvert pipe. This is the head wall of the project. This is the
Hudson View Park.
the Hudson View that everybody sees when you're on Sunnyside Lane.
Mhm.
Started to do all the concrete work and it's near completion. Paving of the driveways will begin this week. They will start paving the roadway and finish landscaping the beginning of next week.
Yep.
It's a big project. Riverview Road Booster Station is almost complete. Planning on turning the new system on Monday of next week. And that's my report.
Janice and I did attend the APOA, the RG Park Homeowners Association meeting yesterday. I think that overall it was a very positive meeting. We, we commended them on, kind of their organization and their attention to village matters, it was a big love fest overall, I think.
What he's trying to say is he got a round of
But
applause.
it was, it made me think, like Caesar, I know I've been down to, Half Moon, I wasn't sure if it was north or south, maybe both over the years, but, if you guys would ever want to invite any of us to, one of your annual meetings, just, keep us in mind. I was going to tell Rick, first time Rick's not here, but, he's also.
Community meetings. In other
Community
words,
meetings,
It's not
exactly.
just that one.
It doesn't have to just be a POA, but,
Right.
I know Sparrow Park has one, I know the co-ops have them, so if you guys ever want us to attend and answer questions, or we'd be happy to attend. That was.
Our annual meeting, January 7th.
Okay.
You're on.
Yeah, exactly. If you want me there, or if you want a couple of us there, let's.
Only if it's a snowstorm.
It's always a
Exactly. But that's all we have here, so we'll go to the village administrator's report.
So, a couple things. First, I had the pleasure last week of meeting with the regional parks director for New York State, Linda Cooper. Ed and I met with her and some of her staff, and they apparently are working on a project to create kind of a planning guide for development along the aqueduct.
Oh, that was the meeting that we talked about.
Yeah. So, and they came to us in large part because they actually admire the laws that we currently have in place for development along the aqueduct. And so we talked about a few different ideas, and they were just kind of picking our brain a little bit. So it was a good meeting. I don't know what's going to come of it. Of course, they don't have any authority to prevent development or dictate how development goes. But they are included in we do seek out their comments, and we reiterated that we like to hear their comments about various projects that happen to be occurring along the aqueduct. So it was a good
So I
dialogue.
assume they need to establish guidelines from a legal perspective anyways.
Well, none of it is enforceable. It's
Yeah,
just,
I
but
understand.
it's kind of a best practices.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so it was a good meeting. The other thing, just a quick heads up that we will not be mailing a sanitation calendar this year for the first time in a long time. We are mailing a postcard, which advises people that we're not mailing a sanitation calendar and tells them where they can find their sanitation calendar. If they're interested, they can either print up or they can download an app to receive notifications about pickup changes or reminders about pickup schedules. If they want to print a calendar and put it on their refrigerator, they can do that, but it's personalized by address. So all of that, well, only a small amount will be on the postcard, as you can imagine, but the website will have all the information.
Is the app available now?
It is.
It was?
Yep.
I used to get them. I signed up for it initially, and I think I stopped getting messages. It tells you every night.
I
tomorrow is
have
your-
85 Main Street in there, and I get them all the time, every
Yeah.
day, because there's pickup every day here.
Okay.
That's a helpful one.
Yeah, right, well, at least I know it's working.
Yeah.
So anyway, the details will be on that, but it's, and as we've said, and as we will say on the postcard, if anyone needs assistance or would like a calendar mailed, a personalized calendar, they can call Village Hall.
That's important. 'cause
Oh, yeah.
I'm reminded it was from some other event or some other posting that some people just really cannot,
Yeah.
like me, figure out how to download things or whatever. So just being able to mail it is a real service to
Yep.
certain members.
Totally understand.
Good.
Yep. So,
Great. Clerk Treasurer's report?
We had our bond sale last week, and our financial advisor said it was the lowest rate he had seen so far. We borrowed $10 million at the average rate of a little bit over 2%.
like a real sliver, like 2.01. I mean, really.
The one-year note we have, normally a one-year note is lower.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
It was actually 3% last year, and that was a competitive bid. So we were really happy with the rate we received.
Great. That
Means everything.
that upgrade helped.
I think it was a combination
Absolutely
of that,
helps.
yeah.
Yeah. You usually get pretty strong response when you're coming in off of of a new
Right.
upgrade, so.
Great.
We had quite a number of also bidders on it.
That's another reason why it's such a good rate.
We love us.
Great job.
Everybody loves us.
Will the attorney's report?
No.
Today.
Public comment? Nothing, no, okay.
Just a brief note on Linda Cooper, when she was supervisor in the town of Yorktown.
Yes, she was.
Yep.
And she pushed Trump's golf course out of the town. So she's a very go-getter type of person. When I was regional director of DEC, and by the way, I would have approved that grant if I was still regional director.
Good.
And she's really terrific.
Would have been a bigger headline if you said you wouldn't have approved the grant, but.
Yeah. I'll give you a call for the endorsement letter, okay?
Right, I was just going to remind everyone it's fall, leaves are coming down in batches. And remember to love them and leave them. Mulch them in place or rake them into the margins so insects can overwinter in them. Lots of ideas. Go to the leleny.org website. If you're a homeowner, a business landscape, or a municipality, and get lots of information, see some videos, and that sort of thing.
Great. That was kind of a good action item for review. Anything else, Larry? Did you have there? I didn't.
No.
I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session regarding real estate. If I can get a second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay.